Hi, welcome to the Goop podcast. I'm Gwyneth Paltrow, and today I'm speaking to someone I care very deeply about an incredible new show that they have just launching on Netflix right now. Today, Brad Falchuk joins me to talk about his beautiful, groundbreaking new show on Netflix called Famous Last Words. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Annie.
Welcome to the Goop podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled you're here.
Well, we lived together, so it was pretty easy to get together.
True. Welcome to your living room. I always want to talk to you about everything because you're the smartest and most interesting person I know.
Thank you. You're biased, but I appreciate it.
But I want to talk to you today specifically about the new project that you have out on Netflix, which is, I think, an incredibly profound and important new show. And I'm not just saying that because I'm married to you. For those of you who are not aware of this show yet, it is called Famous Last Words. And I would love for you to explain a little bit about what the show actually is.
Well, thank you for that. So the show is an interview show, but it's very different than any other interview show that anyone's ever seen. We have guests who are very, very famous and very old. Most of the people we have interviewed have been in their 90s. And we built a special set that is manned by 5 cameras that are remotely controlled. So the cameramen aren't in the room. They're somewhere else and they're not listening to what's being said. So the whole set is locked down. There's nobody in the room but the guest and me doing the interviews. And throughout the whole time, because the idea is that they can have a really honest conversation. They can talk about anything they want, and they can really define themselves because we don't air the interview until after they pass away. So they know it's safe. They know it's locked away. They know they can say anything they want, and they also know that it'll be airing at a moment because we air it right after they pass away, within 48 hours. And we're actually the first one was in 48 hours. We're trying to get it actually faster than that. The idea is that after you die, everybody's talking about you, everybody's defining you, everybody's saying who you were. And this is an opportunity for them to say who they were, both in terms of the long form of the interview. And then at the end of the interview, I step out and they look directly into camera and they say what the message they want to leave the world with, their last words, so to speak. And
They say their famous last words.
They say their famous last words. Exactly. And so, again, it allows them to get the last word.
Right. The first one that has aired, only one has aired so far, and it was on Dr. Jane Goodall.
Yes.
Who was an extraordinary woman. There was a moment in the interview where you talk about kind of the icon that she is, and then also the 7-year-old girl that she is, and how she sort of acknowledges that she holds both at the same time and was kind of perplexed even by the icon part. And she seemed very comfortable talking to you. So one of the reasons I love this show too is it's in the best way. You are not a journalist. Like, you are not going for the jugular. You're not trying to get something incendiary or gossipy out of the person. And I think you make your subjects feel so comfortable. And they clearly trust you so much. I mean, she clearly in the episode trusts you so much. So how do you engender that kind of safety and trust in your subjects?
In terms of the icon part, it's and maybe it's kind of related, is that I think that famous people in general have to have 2 identities. They have to have a public identity and the one that everyone sort of thinks they know, because that's it's real. It's part of who they are. But then there was the person they were before they were famous, right? There's the little girl, the little boy who was not that.
Yeah.
And it's very hard sometimes probably to protect that. I imagine, I don't know, you tell me, this is something that sometimes gets confused. I see clearly the delineation between the two for you, but I don't know if that's true for everybody.
How do you see that?
I think it's about being able to, and this gets to the second part of the question, it's being able to see you not being reflected by other people, right? I see you here at home. I see you in your life. I see you with the people that knew you before that. And so in that space, it's easier for you to just be yourself. And then in the outside space with people you don't know, it's harder.
Yeah.
And so my goal with the interview is to show everyone who doesn't know the person the person before.
Yeah.
Is to get to that, is to say, and this is why I want to do the interviews instead of a journalist, is that I think that most of these people have done hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews in their lives.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a crouch you go into when you do them. I've seen it. And I didn't want them to go into that. I wanted them to be able to just be relaxed, which is why when we walk on the set, there's nobody there. I mean, the entire time throughout the beginning of reaching out to them until the end of the interview, they interact with almost nobody except me.
Yeah.
And the idea is we can relax to really try and understand who they were before. And so my goal is not to get some salacious piece of information. There's no agenda. I've researched them extensively, weeks of research and learning and knowing more about them than they know about themselves. But with the idea of being, I'm going to make them feel safe enough to talk about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, I think, talked very intimately about her ex-husbands and how she felt about them. She talked about
in ways that she had never spoken about
never
things before.
Yeah, and in ways that she realized after saying it that she hadn't even told her son about his father. And she talked about having a love that was romantic and illicit, yeah.
Yeah.
And she talked about people she was not happy with. Like she very much opened up and was very comfortable, and that was my goal. And I know it's very different than anything most people have seen, and so the experience is very different because most interviews aren't safe.
How did you get Netflix on board with this? Because in watching a lot of the Netflix programming these days, it's very sort of, popcorny. It's very, and I know they're really driving towards people not turning something off and, just an understanding like the metrics of success at Netflix. Like they really want people to stay with something. And this interview show is so markedly different, not only from anything on Netflix, but any interview show I've ever seen. There are no cutaways, there are no clips, there are no bells and whistles whatsoever. It's you and the subject, and there's not even music. I mean, there are none of those cheats that typically producers put in order to like redirect or recapture attention or anything like that. It's like this beautiful, quiet, incredibly intimate thing that is riveting, but with none of those tricks. So how did you, were Netflix like, this is weird? Like, did they know how to slot this in? Like, what was your experience of getting it made?
I think that anything great, anything that anyone sees that's great, I think this is great. Not just because I made it.
It is great.
I've made bad stuff. But I think this is great. And I think anything great is produced by a series of fights.
Yeah.
And a series of disagreements and a series of compromises and all that. And so the one thing I'll say about Netflix, which has been true with everything I've done with them, is that they have ideas, but they're really willing to lose fights, which I find admirable. Like you can get them there. And so they were.
And is that typical, just so I know, in any studio? Like, are there always fights to make something great?
Anything great is fights.
Right.
Anything, if you're painting something on your own, then there's no fights, I suppose, except with yourself.
Right.
But any piece of art that's a movie or a TV show or anything.
In collaboration,
there's always going to be disagreements. And I say fights, it's not fights. It's just people having different ideas and finding out which one is best.
Yeah.
So I'll say with Netflix with this, they were 100% supportive the whole time. They got it. And we didn't always get exactly what it should be, but we found it. And we found it all together. And I have no complaints about how they've been, because we were trying to do something so new and so different that I had doubts throughout. Yeah. So it's the perfect place for it, because now it's everywhere in the world and no place else can do that. And they're not looking at necessarily the ratings of it in that way. They're looking to build it as a larger brand that can go all over the world and interview in multiple different languages and all that. So when I say fights, I say it in a good way.
Yeah. So the show is based on a Danish show?
It's based on a Danish show. My producing partner named Mikkel Bondesen went back to Denmark during COVID.
Right.
And while he was there, he saw an episode of this show. and was blown away and said, we should bring this to Netflix.
And you mentioned that in Denmark, it's become a phenomenon, like
Huge.
a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, when somebody passes away who's famous in Denmark, there's an immediate hope that they've done the show because people really want a little more time with them. People really want to hear what they have to say about themselves. And so we connected with the creator, who's also named Mikael, and Banijay there, and spoke with them, and we realized we had the same values, we had the same idea of what the show could be, and they amazingly trusted us with bringing it into Netflix. We brought it to Netflix, and that was that. But it's aired, I think they've aired 20 in Denmark.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe they've shot 20 and they've aired 10. They've shot a lot. And once it started airing, they were able to shoot a lot more. And Mikael, who's the host and creator in Denmark, has been just such an invaluable resource for me.
Yeah.
Because it's a strange job.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you a little bit about making that segue to being in front of the camera, which you've never been before. And also, I know you really well, and you never seek the limelight. You've never pushed through in a crowd, when you've won the Emmy or whatever, to try and, you know what I mean? Like, you're a very private person. You don't crave the limelight, and you don't try to create that for yourself. So, I mean, you spoke a little bit about this earlier, but why did you decide that it had to be you? I mean, because it could have also been another non-journalist, for example. And why? I know why I think you did. And
why do you think I did it?
Well, I think anybody who knows you or sits next to you at a dinner party, I can't tell you how many times I've had the experience where the person comes to me after and it's like, Brad is just so thoughtful and such a safe person. I've heard that word about you a number of times. Like, one person told me he should work for the CIA. Like, in 10 minutes, I told him everything I've ever, all my secrets. And I think you have a very reassuring, calm presence, which I think exactly, famous people do have armor up all the time, and you can kind of dismantle that armor. But certainly somebody else might have been able to do it, right? So why you?
They might have, but I didn't know how to explain that to somebody. I didn't know how to explain what I was seeing in the show. How do I explain, like, no, it's different, and it's just about a feeling that people will have both sitting in the room and also watching, and then going to find that person. You're talking about an enormous amount of work. I mean, no, not only do I not seek out the limelight, I hate it. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable going in front of the camera. I would probably have had a hard time if there were cameramen in the room. The fact that we walk in and it's the two of us alone in a room, you would never know a show is being shot there. We just sit and talk. And so...
And the cameras are hidden, or...
The cameras can be seen and they move, but there's there's no sense of them. It's just the two of us looking at each other, and we're very close. And you have to usually lean in because these are older people, and you have to really listen. And the qualities that I thought were so important were safety and curiosity and real listening, like real listening. And I thought that the other stuff, in terms of some of the technical stuff of how to do an interview and ask questions, I would figure out or get better at. But you can't fake safety. You can't fake that with somebody. Someone has to trust you. And these people are trusting me with something so big, which is that I'll be dead. Do I trust you to carry my words to the world? Are you going to do this in a way that's respectful of me and understanding of me? And also, do I trust you to tell you things that I've never told anybody before? And do I trust you to talk about the subject that nobody ever wants to talk about, which is death? It's the one taboo. Right? You go on all these podcasts and everybody's talking about sex now as every possible thing, and talking shit about people they know, and it's like there is no taboo subjects in the culture anymore except death. And so I wanted to break that and say, no, we're going to talk about death the way we talk about anything, with no judgment and with a real safe space. And so it's hard to say to somebody, when you tell someone, well, you're dead. You look at them and you say, you're dead. How do you make them feel safe when you do that and have them not react? And so I didn't know how to do that. And I said, I think I can do that. My greatest satisfaction in seeing people's reaction to the show is how much they're talking about the show, how much they're talking about her, and how Nobody's talking about me. That's a win,
Right.
you know?
And that's what's happening. It's going a bit viral. People are, I think, blown away by the conceit of the show, and then also by her and what she says, what she shares. And I think people are so moved. And I think my favorite was one of our friends, John, said it's the greatest whiskey commercial of all time.
It is. She was a real drinker, man. I was impressed by her. She could really just keep going.
Amazing.
But that was the same thing. Whatever they want in the room, they can have. Any beverages, and we can stop, take a break, and have a snack. They can take a nap. She didn't. She just kept going. But yeah, she's an extraordinary woman. And the idea was to say, find extraordinary people.
I want to go back to the subject of death being a taboo and how you're interested in breaking that taboo. Is there a reason why particularly you want to help break that taboo?
I think that we are living in a time that's challenging. Jane said it herself. It's dark time for lots of reasons. And I think one of the reasons why it's so dark is that people seem to have forgotten that they're going to die. They seem to think they're going to go on forever. And so when you think you're going to go on forever, greed and jealousy and selfishness and violence and all these things seem acceptable because you just want more, more, more. And so I think that reminding everybody they're going to die hopefully will allow them to maybe recenter themselves, say, wait a second, what am I doing? None of this that I'm doing is going to come with me. Everybody wants so much attention now. Everybody wants so much adulation and fame and all these things. And it's like, you know what? Everyone's forgotten. And so the idea of death being in everybody's lives all the time, I mean, if you think it's a cliche, but you think about the people who are, the plane is going down and they're not thinking about how much money they have. They're not thinking about the people they've dominated or hurt. They're not thinking about those things. They're thinking about the people they love. They're thinking about regrets they've had, things they didn't do. And so I kind of want everybody to have that on their mind a little bit more.
Yeah. It would make us maybe a little more
And,
gentle.
our therapist, who's brilliant, said to me during this process, and he was really helpful in getting me sort of in the right headspace for it, was like, we're incomplete as a culture if death is not part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And we need to bring it back into it. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to die. We're all going to die. It's the two things we all share. We're all born and we all die. We all share it, and yet we don't talk about it.
Yeah. Interestingly, the first episode to air was actually the last one that you shot. You shot it when? When was it?
We shot that in March, so really
March.
recently.
And you're not at liberty to say the other people.
I am not, never will.
You touched on it a little while ago, but are there any kind of commonalities throughout your subjects that surprised you?
I said it in the New York Times asked me something like that, and I said, people like Jane knew there was more to do. But she also knew she was passing along. She'd created this whole group of young people, these roots and shoots, who were going to take over for her. So she knew it was coming up to the time to pass the torch on. But no one talked about money.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about the joys of great fame. It wasn't all of the things that I think a lot of young people strive for. And granted, these people achieved a lot of that, though many of them aren't wealthy. Achieved a lot of that, and looking back, it really wasn't the core of who they were. Who they were was their mission, was their pain, was their love for their family. It's almost unsurprising,
Right.
How centered everyone is when talking about their own death on the same kind of things, which is what's actually important. And we talk that up a lot as, no, focus on what's really important.
Yeah.
And those are the things that are really important.
Are there any commonalities in the regrets?
Everybody in some way who had kids would have liked to have spent more time with them.
Yeah.
Everybody. I mean, they accomplished a lot, and generally you have to give something up to get something. And most of them, I think, and most of all of us in some way, gave up time with people we cared about in order to accomplish something. It's just how it works. You really can't have both. No matter how hard you tried, you really can't have both.
Well, yeah.
You got as close as anybody.
Well, I stopped working.
There you go. So you made a choice, right? And
Right.
that's that Springsteen thing that he said from the River Tour when he said, the
Oh,
value,
yeah, yeah, that
you
thing.
know that thing, the value of something is measured by what we give up to get it.
Right, right.
And
I
so
shouldn't say stop working. I should say I gave up starring in films all the time.
you change your priorities pretty dramatically.
Yep. And hearing you talk about that, like I feel a relief that if I was 91 and doing this show, I don't think I would say that.
No, I think you'd say, I just should have been nicer to myself.
That's for sure. What about you? What would you say to yourself? What would your regret be?
Looking back, I don't know. Hopefully it won't be, but my regret would probably be I should have believed in myself more.
Is the success of this show helping you believe in
It
yourself
just
more?
started. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think anything externally actually changes that.
Agree.
I
I was
think
gonna
I know
say.
too many people who have so much external success and it's made no difference. I know a few people who I really respect who haven't had that and still believe in themselves completely. And so the work is to actually believe in yourself first and then get the external stuff because then it's just fun. So I feel like I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah. Do you have a practice to get there?
We have a great therapist,
Yep.
and I focus on making everything that mission.
Mm.
Everything. So every, when especially nowadays working in Hollywood, there's a lot of disappointment and no's.
Yeah.
A lot of really hard work that leads to unsatisfying endings.
Mm.
And so my approach is always as a practice is to say everything is an opportunity for one mission, which is to get closer to yourself, believe in yourself more, accept yourself more, all these things. And so when those things come up, even though the sting happens, I say, okay, that sting now is me putting meaning into this, which is that, oh, there you go. There's proof that I wasn't good enough. There's proof that I shouldn't have taken this chance. There's proof that other people are better than me. And say, no, that's actually the stuff, the world to play in. How am I going to react to that? How can I feel this sting and make it not indicative of this lie that I've told myself a long, long, long time ago? And so you end up I end up looking forward to, I'd rather win, but I end up also looking forward to losses to know that those are where the strengths are going to come from. And then the wins will come, they come and they go. And then, they're also not indicative of me being wrong, right? They're not telling me anything except that this one worked out. And so that's kind of my practice is to really make it be the only thing that really matters. The only measure of anything is how did I react to that?
Yeah. Everybody that you've interviewed obviously is known enough for it to make a cultural impact when the show comes out. They're very, very well-known people. I'm wondering again if there's any sort of common thread around their success and their personality in the sense of, do you feel like, oh, it was just kind of luck that these people became this way? Or do you think that it was, resolve?
It was never luck. Luck found them, but that's because they worked really, really hard. Every single one of them was tireless, and whatever the path they chose, they had the talent, but they never ever gave up. They never hesitated, and they failed, and they got up, and they kept going. And also the common theme is definitely, and all these people who I interviewed are still busy.
Yeah.
They're still doing stuff. They don't.
Yeah. I mean, Jane Goodall was on a speaking tour.
Yeah, she never ever stopped. I think
Incredible.
she spent a few days at home a year.
Wow.
And so my thing is always that luck favors the prepared, is that like luck finds you when you're good and you're working really hard.
Yeah.
And all these people worked their asses off. Absolutely.
Can you say sort of what other areas these people's professions are in?
I don't want people to make guesses.
Okay, then forget.
But I just say that they're all iconic culturally,
Yes.
right? And so in their particular fields, they have an iconic quality that
People
really
make big impact.
big impact people.
Yeah. Who's a kind of a dream guest that you haven't done yet? Can you say that?
Can't say that because maybe we did them.
Darn.
That who would have been a dream guest? I don't know. Nixon would have been a dream guest, and
Why?
just because I would love to get a really honest conversation with him. I think he was a brilliant guy,
Yeah.
and he changed the presidency, and he changed the country, and he had a big scandal, He had a big chip on his shoulder. And so I think he would have been somebody who would be interesting to get the truth from.
Yeah.
A real true him would have been interesting because it's very clear. It seems very clear that he was a sad guy.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't it have been cool to see the sadness, to really see it, And I think, I'm open to interviewing people who maybe aren't totally beloved. Everyone we have interviewed is that, but who are not, because I think it's important also to humanize everybody so that everyone understands people that do troubling things, maybe not evil things, but troubling things, they're not freaks. They're human, just like us. Yeah. And that's very important for us to know so that we can check ourselves, not because you're going to change anybody, but it's like, it's not fair to just look at them as some kind of external, different version of human. Like, no, they're just like us.
Well, I think that's the sort of, I don't know if it's a mistake, it's just kind of an axiom, but what we do around people who are well known in our culture, we want to strip them of their foibles and fallacies and their humanity, right? We want them to, which is why we tear people, build people up and tear them down. There's no great pervasive understanding of everybody's human. Everybody has darkness in them. Everybody has light. We all have bad instincts. We all have good instincts, and it's sort of a fight through that.
And that's again the point of the show is that for the first time, unless you know them, you see these people as humans.
Yeah.
Because every other point of access to them has been controlled. Right. They've been controlled. The person giving access has been controlled, and so we forget. And so the idea of the show is to remind you that no, they were just people. They were just little kids who grew up and decided to do these things and accomplished a lot.
The other thing that I think is really great about you doing this is I think I have almost never encountered an interview in my life, almost never, maybe a couple of times, where the journalist doesn't already know exactly what they're going to write or exactly what they want to get across. And I'm just supplying quotes for that narrative, essentially. Do you think that you not being a journalist helps? Like, for example, I would be so interested, just if I got a cold call about this, if I was 90 years old, I would be so deeply interested to do this and tell my story and speak. I'm somebody who's had quite a lot projected onto them throughout our life. Are you aware of this?
I've heard from other people that you have.
You obviously go in very agnostic. I mean, you do a lot of research, you know a lot about them, but you can tell that you haven't created a narrative that you're trying to shape them into. But have there been things that you really want them to discuss?
Usually what they reveal, I didn't know, right? Because it's not in the research.
Of course.
Right? And I always ask them before, I say, is there anything you really do want to talk about?
Oh, okay.
Is there anything that's really important to you? Because we will definitely cover that. And is there anything you really don't want to talk about? And I won't even ask you that. I won't even try.
Right. That's so lovely.
Well, it's theirs. It's a service to them. That's how I tell them. I said, this is for you, right? This is your chance to speak to the world. You've given so much to the world. This is your chance to speak to the world. So whatever you want it to be, it can be. And then in that space, in the research, sometimes, I think it helps not being a journalist, but being a storyteller. You start to see patterns of ways that people are and things about them that are interesting that maybe in certain areas of their life might have had an impact. So I try and know that those subjects are maybe interesting to talk about from an angle that is fresh. So if we're talking about their love life, we're talking about their childhood, maybe some things I saw about their relationship with their mom that I feel like, well, this is kind of interesting. Something here that's affected that marriage later in life, which is pretty obvious, but they haven't talked about it necessarily in that way before. With Jane, when we got on to talking about her marriages, where it sort of pivoted was when she said who she'd want waiting for her when she arrived in heaven. Her mother and her chimps, and not her husband's. And so that to me is interesting, right? I didn't know she was going to say that.
Right.
I mean, she got she got divorced from both husbands, so maybe usually when that happens, there's a reason for it. But it could also be a great heartbreak that she did. But I didn't expect her to say that.
Right.
To sort of move into that, and then to move into, okay, she didn't love them, or she loved them in the way she could at the time, but was there anyone she did love that way? So those are just sort of pivots that happen, I think, again, with the listening and with making sure she knows that whatever she tells me, I'm not going to react to. I'm not going to feel like, ooh, I got something, or ooh, that's gross, or whatever.
Has anybody finished and said, you know what, I regret that I said that. I would like you to edit it out?
Not yet, but if they do, I tell them right away before we start that if there is anything ever, even the next day,
Right.
that they say, you know what, I said that about so-and-so and that they're still alive and I don't want to do that, then we would take it out.
Right. That's so nice.
As I say, like this is a gift back to the people who have given us so much, and this is their definition of who they are, and hopefully in that safe space they can talk about anything, and maybe afterwards they say, you know what, that was too far, but it hasn't happened yet.
Has anybody said to you before you start the interview, I'd rather stay away from this subject or that subject?
A couple, but they weren't what you'd expect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wish I could know what that was. I mean, you said a lot about the making of it, but from my point of view, it's really interesting being married to you and also being so close to people who are in the industry, and that there seems to be this kind of like, let's get to the broadest base, like the kind of not lowest common denominator in a bad way, but kind of like, what is the cheapest, most effective way to reach as many people and keep people, you know, really engaged? And this show is just so different to that, you know? So when you did the first episode, whenever that was, which has not aired, I know that there were different ideas about, and you all found the show together,
Yeah.
but were you coming up against that sort of like streaming platform, like, well, our data says that, and you know, in second 8, if we don't have this, then, because I've heard other friends say, you know, they get notes like that from the streamers, like all of these notes that are designed just to make people finish an episode and start the next episode, right?
Yeah, and with someplace like Netflix, that's their business model, and so I have no problem when I'm writing to that, right? To say, okay, well, I want success here. So we're making a show for Netflix. I want success on Netflix, which is different than success other places.
And that's not like constraining?
It's just different. It's
Right.
storytelling, right? And so you say, okay, how do I tell this story that's going to help me get success here? If you're trying to make something that would be successful somewhere else, that would be constraining,
Right.
right? And the thing about this show is obviously totally different than everything else.
Yeah, it's like this
and
anomaly.
very new. And so it's hard to explain something like that, right? It's just like you have to just work with it. But they saw it. It just took a lot of back and forth to get it there.
Yeah.
You know, it was challenging process, because anytime you're doing something kind of different, it's challenging.
Yeah.
I also know that I got a lot out of that process of learning about what the show should be and who I should be and all of that. So I can't say enough about the support that sort of Ted gave me and a lot of the other executives there really gave me to say, this is a show we bought, so let's make it, you know?
I think Ted really, at the end of the day, is somebody who cares so much about moments like quality and artistry and vision, because I'm really curious like how one holds both commerciality and art at the same time. It's a really hard balance.
It is.
Yeah.
To complain about a process when it worked out.
Yeah. No,
It's
no,
not right. You know what I
to
mean?
complain.
Because no,
It
but I
just-
mean is even to criticize a process or criticize anybody involved in the process, it's like whatever anyone was doing during that process led to what everybody saw is
Yeah.
watching on. And so everybody was doing the right thing. And the truth was that like we needed to forge this in that fire.
Totally. I just think like as your partner, it was like was a little bit of a hero's journey, you know, like there were a lot of pushbacks and a lot of obstacles along the way in finding this incredible jewel of a show and how it is.
I think that's right. But that's what I said earlier is like, thank goodness,
Yeah.
because I'm different now because having gone through that. And thank goodness also the people that I was having those disagreements were also believed in what the show could be.
Yeah.
And also were champions of mine at the same time.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that that all happened. And I'm also, I understand that like, if my idea in doing this show is to provide a service to these wonderful people, I need to be as strong as I can be to do that. I need to be able to really be able to hold anything they bring me in for them to really trust me. So anything that provides me more belief in myself and more strength is going to be a really valuable thing. And I also think, I don't know, we have so many friends who are real artists, right? Who've put out just art into the world. I know what that takes, but I never felt connected to anything in the same way in terms of doing that, in terms of being able to have them be peers of mine, and this feels a little like that. I'm proud of everything I've done. Like I said, some of it sucks, but I'm proud of everything I've done. But in terms of saying, oh, this is an expression of me as an artist, this is the one.
That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear you say that. Kind of makes me cry.
Oh.
What is it saying to you about you that this is who you are as an artist and that you put it into the world? What are you gleaning from that? Because when you were talking, there was a bit of self-discovery, and
everybody has self-doubt, right?
Yeah.
So I certainly am not immune from that. In fact, people may hate the show, they may love the show, they may be critical, they may be celebratory. Like, this is such an expression of me in terms of the feeling of it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're curious, well, who is he? Like, this show is the expression of that in terms of being intimate and caring and curious and non-judgmental and all of these things.
Yeah.
And respectful and all of that. And so to have that out in the world and people reacting to feels like people are acknowledging my way of being in the world.
Yeah.
Which isn't everywhere, and so I don't know. It's so early. Like, you're so, usually when you premiere something, you there's a huge lead up to it and all this press and all this preparation, and then you get ready and then it comes out. This was like a sudden shock and a terrible, sad shock, because the Jane you see in the show, that's her. Like, she you don't want her to go.
No.
And I absolutely adored her, and the time I spent with her was kind of life-changing. It was just a few hours, but it was kind of life-changing. And so seeing that she had passed was really upsetting and shocking. And so I'm still kind of dealing with that while launching a show, while trying to figure out how to market a show that is unmarketable.
Well, it's just catching on. It's just doing its thing.
Yeah. And so I don't know yet. I don't know yet.
Okay.
This is literally the subject I'd like talking about the least.
Yourself.
Myself. We'll happy to talk about anything and everything. Can we talk about baseball or World War II or Springsteen songs or anything like that?
No.
Or you? Those are subjects I would love to talk about for hours and hours and hours. But talking about me, I'm squirming.
Okay, well then I will ask you about your other interests, because you always say you have very few very deep interests, right? And you just name them all. Certainly not having dinner parties and socializing.
I think I like it. It just makes me tired with the right people.
You're an introvert.
I think I am.
You think? Really? You often talk about Bruce Springsteen as like your kind of biggest influence in a lot of ways. Of course, the Red Sox and Tom Brady, we can't forget about him. But in terms of, Springsteen is really like a philosopher and a poet in his own way. So because you are a man who is also a poet and a philosopher, and that really comes through. You're also incredibly curious, which I'm not sure if Bruce Springsteen is or not, but I wonder, having grown up listening to his work, like, do you think that has shaped you in terms of how you regard people and in terms of how you might approach getting to know people?
The music has, sort of infected everything. I was telling you the other day that, like, talking to Steven Spielberg, and I said, you got me through the years. His movies did. It taught me so much about life and about ways of being and about courage and about curiosity and about wonder and about magic and all these things. But Bruce, got me through the days. It was like every day I needed him.
Wow.
And I still do, to just fulfill a longing or something that's always there. I mean, I think his music is what I think I relate to the most is the longing in it. And all of his stuff, it has that in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that comes from in him. I mean, I read his book and all that stuff, but it's so in the music. And when you go to a concert, I mean, everybody's having the same experience. It's like this longing is getting pulled out of you and satisfied. You know, and it can be a sad song, it can be a happy song, but it just feels like you're striving for something, to feel something.
It sounds like church. What church is?
It is. There's some connection he has to that particular feeling that is very special. And I think that that feels to me, and I bet you if you ask most Springsteen fans, that's maybe the defining emotion they have in them is a longing. And so it goes back to what I was saying before, is that the only dream is that you would make something worthy of these great artists that have inspired you and you admire. So these great artists like Stephen or Bruce, it's like they make the most beautiful things ever, you know, the most incredible movies and the most incredible music. And it's like, can I ever do that? Can I ever provide that? And I think I've written plenty of, like I said, plenty of good stuff, but something in this feels transcendent in the way that some of their stuff does. I would never compare myself to them, but I've always been striving to live up to that ideal of what they've provided for me as artists.
Have you interviewed Bruce Springsteen for this show?
I'm not saying I can't. What I'm going to say, anytime anyone asks me, I'm going to say yes to everyone because I'm a terrible liar. And so no one will ever believe me when I say no, if they actually I have. So yes, everybody. No.
You have interviewed everybody?
Everybody. Anybody you can imagine I've
Okay.
interviewed. No, I would have a lot, certainly a lot to ask, but
He's probably too young.
I think so.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Yeah.
But it's I'm not alone in my passion for Bruce. There's a whole
Yes.
radio station dedicated just to him. I'm not the only person that only listens to Bruce Springsteen.
Yes, this is very true. So as we get to the end of this beautiful conversation, have you thought about what your last words would be? Meaning, what is the significance that you've brought into the world so far, and how would you like to be remembered?
That I don't know. Like to be remembered, I don't know. That's hard, right? I don't know how I would control that. I mean, I would.
And I guess it's hard. It's a hard question to answer anyway, but you're only halfway through your life, and I know you feel like you've so much more left to accomplish. But in terms of the like human side,
I guess I would say that maybe the one lesson that I think I have learned that I think would provide the most value is that nothing is more important than truth. And that integrity and truth, if you have those as your guideposts, everything's going to be okay.
yeah,
And that when you lose sense of that is when things get a little murky and confusing.
yes,
And there's a difference between honesty and truth.
yeah,
Like we have a lot of honesty now. A lot. Everybody's telling you everything about themselves. That's not their truth. And that's not the truth of what's going on. And so something in my last words would be to really strive for real truth and to never lose your integrity and to find somebody you truly love, and then everything will take care of itself.
Okay, last question. What would you like for dinner tonight?
Well, this is very important. I don't know. We could do something simple. We can like roast a chicken, you can roast a chicken and I can help sous chef.
That would be perfect on this rainy day.
Light a fire,
Yeah.
just us, not drink.
What else is new?
Have a nice salad with one of your standby vinaigrettes.
Yep.
That would be good.